Okay, I am live, but my coffee cup is empty. Um, Hang on while I put the tea kettle on. Hi, Crichton. Hi, I forgot your other name. Hi, Sleepy Dave. Hang on while I put on the tea kettle and make some instant coffee. Oh, gosh. Let's see. Okay. I guess I should do my classic introduction. Uh, Good afternoon, and welcome to another exciting edition of Ancient of Days, coming to you live from uh, sort of sunny downtown Crestline in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire on this Sunday afternoon, the second day of February, or as I like to say, February the Tooth, in the year of our Lord 2020. And it happens to be Groundhog Day. Now, I know that there's a Super Bowl today, but I don't follow football. I guess I'm obligated to root for the 49ers because they're a California team, but I'm rather upset with the way California has been going lately. Oh well. Hmm. Humph. I forgot to smoke the cigarette, so it quit burning. Can't afford to waste a cigarette. Well, hello, Evie. Hmm. There we go. Well, how come I have three people in chat and two people watching? That's strange. Did Dave lose the connection again? Mel's Wheels is Sleepy Dave. Well, maybe, I hope Crichton didn't lose it, or Evie. Maybe YouTube just can't count. Anyway, Groundhog Day. Perfect time to talk about that movie. Oh, I'm a spiritual advisor now? Oh, Moon's coming along. Cool. Um, there's a link to Roger Ebert's review of the movie Groundhog Day. I do occasionally do Bible study. I did a lot of that on Blog Talk, but I'm tired of all the glitches on Blog Talk Radio, so I moved to YouTube. Oh, now I have three listeners. Google account. What a name. It's Palindrome Day. Oh, certainly is. How did you get away with yourself Google account? I like that. Well, anyway, while we wait for the tea kettle to call me to the kitchen to make my instant coffee, there's a link here for Roger Ebert's review of Groundhog Day. It was posted in 2005, but I suspect that it was written earlier than that. Oh, I see. It's a rewrite of his original review. Let's see. He says it's entertaining, apparently effortless. You have to stand back and slap yourself before you see how good it really is. The tea kettle's calling. Be right back. Ah, coffee, the elixir of life. Okay. All right. I think I'm back. Coffee helps. I didn't get to finish my um, sandwich, but that's okay. Hi, Kev and Mikhail or Michael. He writes it in Greek letters, so I try to pronounce it the way I was taught Koine Greek many moons ago, decades ago, and I didn't learn it very well. And hi, Sandra and Moonlight. Now, that's not fair. You spelled moon in English and light in German. Der Mond, M-O-N-D, is German for the moon. For some reason, in German, the sun is feminine and the moon is masculine. Okay, hi everybody. Now, I want to get back to Groundhog Day. See, I find it fascinating that the main character, played by Bill Murray, is named Phil. Because, of course, the groundhog who predicted the weather today was Punxsutawney Phil. The other groundhog decided to predict the Super Bowl instead. No, we don't eat groundhog. They taste nasty, or so I'm told. Groundhog is a gigantic rodent, I believe. I can't trust my internet to have that many. Now, Roger Ebert, by the way, is the same guy who panned Turk 182, a movie from 1985 that is obviously a farce. It's listed as a comedy drama. In Turk 182, the minute I saw that Robert Culp was in it, I knew it wouldn't be serious, and yet Siskel and Ebert both panned that wonderful film for being unrealistic. Duh. It wasn't supposed to be realistic. Turk 182, story of the younger brother of an injured firefighter who was denied disability by the city. Kind of hits home for me. Apparently, I can't get disability because I can still walk and I'm not missing any limbs. Never mind that yesterday I walked 2 blocks and now I can barely move around the house. I managed to get my coffee, but it hurt and I'm not going to move much now. I have a very bad leg and a very bad back. Extinction Rebellion, folks? The hole in the ozone? Uh, I don't know which side you're on, Michael, but the hole in the ozone isn't good at evidence because they find it filling in again and then they find it opening out again, and they apparently the hole in the ozone has been there since long before there were human beings. A repeating phenomenon, eh? Well, frankly, we can't save the Earth. The Earth will be here long after we're all dead. But we might save humanity. Yeah, when I was in high school, we were headed into the next ice age within 5 years. Frankly, we've never been out of the ice age. I wish I could get a helper. That's why I applied for disability so I could get home care. I can't keep up on simple household chores. If I wash the dishes, I'm done for the day. If I sweep the floor, I might or might not have enough left in me to mop it. If I vacuum, I can't do anything else. I'm stuck either sitting or lying down for at least one day. I can't lift a stinking gallon of milk. It weighs a whole 10 pounds, maybe less than that, and I can't lift it. But they think I can do physical labor in a warehouse where you have to be able to lift at least 20 pounds, and in most places, 40 pounds. I can't do it. I haven't been able to do it for the past 20 years. No, this is federal. It's disability, not state, Oswald. Um, they had me down as a adjunct faculty at Chapman University, which did not qualify me for benefits such as disability. So I'm stuck with the federal thing. And unless I can find an attorney who's willing to go to federal court, I'm done. I can't get it. It sucks. Oh, Eland. Mass extinction. Well, frankly, I'm talking about a movie called Groundhog Day. Roger Ebert. Okay, let's get rid of Turk 182. I enjoyed the heck out of that movie. The firefighter's younger brother started spray painting graffiti, and he kept writing Turk 182, which was the code name of his brother, the injured firefighter. Oh, Phil, you guys, you keep asking me questions and getting me off the track. Okay, Phil read aloud from James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake quite often. He said that it was a book best read aloud, and I think he was right. I've read Ulysses, James Joyce's Ulysses, and A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, but I haven't tackled Finnegan's Wake just yet. Yes, Groundhog Day, Joseph or Oswald, is very Joycean. Well, let's see what else Roger Ebert says about the movie Groundhog Day. I certainly underrated it. Oh, certainly I underrated it in my original review. I enjoyed it so easily that I was seduced into cheerful moderation. But there are a few films, and this is one of them, that burrow into our memories and become reference points. Burrow is kind of a pun, it's about a groundhog. Well, we have a weatherman named Phil, played by Bill Murray, and of course, the groundhog is Punxsutawney Phil. I'm sure that was not a mistake in Richard Lupoff's short story, which formed the basis SIS for the film. I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. Oh man, my typos are getting very interesting. For the film Groundhog Day. So if you have the time and money and so forth, get Richard Lupov's short story. Um, his friends called him Dick Lupov. And yes, Phil was one of his friends. Yeah, Groundhog Day was fun, but it also has a deeper meaning. He he's ne'er do well who isn't ever going to marry his sweetheart and just strings her along until he realizes that there's no meaning in his life. He even before Groundhog Day, he was just going through the motions. I've had enough of Roger Ebert. Hi, Philip. I have a wrench in the room. Oh, Oswald has a wrench too. Two wrenches. So far, I don't think I've had any trolls. Not sure about that. Hippies and climatologists. Google account is on Medicaid because of no income, live with family, pays for your medication. Well, that's good. I, I could live with my brother and his wife, but it would not be pretty. And then, since they're older than I am, what do I do when they're gone and their children inherit the house? I can't afford to rent a whole house. Now, I'm on Social Security, but it's a pittance. I might be able to get supplemental security income. Uh, yes, we know it's palindrome day, Philip. Oswald is my worst troll. I don't think so. Anyway, um, just I'm not into football, but I hope to see all the commercials from the Super Bowl. Aha! Groundhog Day references the eternal recurrence. The Time Plays by J.B. Priestley references the philosophical idea of the. Okay, well, let's go with Plotinus then. Phil loved to quote this little bit from Plotinus. No, and he quoted it wrong, but this is how Phil said it. No single thing abides, but all things flow. And in Siddhartha, something about the river. It is never the same river. Ah, my typo got through. Now, I generally don't watch the halftime show, but I'm sure it'll show up on YouTube. Anyway, something about the river at the end of Siddhartha, it's never the same river because it's never the same water in the riverbed. Oh, Nietzsche coined the term eternal. Oh, Heraclitus. Okay, what did Plotinus say? Plotinus said something like that. Phil was misquoting whoever it was. Plotinus, between 204 and 270 AD in Italy. Okay. What is Plotinus best known for? Neoplatonism, I guess. Founded Neoplatonism. I don't know. That seems awfully late. Um, okay. Plotinus quotes. Oh, okay. Plotinus said, life is the flight from alone to alone. Heraclitus said the thing about all things flow, but that isn't exactly, oh, I'm full of typos. That isn't exactly how Heraclitus said it. Oh well. See, I'm going to have to look these things up and get them straight. My head is full of all kinds of stuff from researching the exegesis of Philip K. Dick, which is sort of a Groundhog Day experience for me. Yes, Tim, everything is in flux. Siddhartha is that novel by Hermann Hesse, I believe. It's about the Buddha. I think the Gautama Buddha. I'm not really up on all this stuff. I always have to look it up and try to, you know, try to keep it straight in my head. Oh, we have a Mr. Sugar Patch? I don't see. Okay, whatever. Isla Ren is here. Uh, flight. Flight, Michael. Flight from alone to alone. Oops. ALONE. Oh, hell. I can't afford to keep smoking, but one, I said a bad word. Oh, well, it wasn't that bad. As long as I'm talking about hell. Hell is a concept we get from Dante and Milton and William Blake. It isn't in the Bible the way we think of it. Thank you, Philip. Yeah, I read Siddhartha once and I saw a television movie of Siddhartha. Oh, Isla Ren, I say much worse words when nobody but the cat can hear me. But there's one word I never use, not even for my worst of thorns in the side, or enemies, if you wish. And that one begins with C. I hate that word. I'll put up with, shit and crap and hell and even damn, but not the C word. As bloody is supposed to be a bad word in England because it refers to the mother of Jesus. It's by Our Lady. And some say, no, it's really an insult to the Queen. But how many queens have they had? They usually have a king. Well, let's see, there'd be Elizabeth I and a few uh, very short lived reigns of a day or two. Then there's William and Mary, but it was William and Mary. And then there's Elizabeth II and Victoria. So basically, England has had three queens and a whole string of kings. Oh, don't go there, Eland. Bloody Mary is a terrible, terrible thing. It's yeah, Gehenna is real. That's the valley where the people of Jerusalem burned their garbage. But when you find the word hell in the Bible, it's usually an English translation of either the Greek Hades or the Hebrew Sheol, and they are just the place where dead souls go. They are not necessarily places of punishment, as with the Greeks. You know, Achilles died in the Trojan War, and his living friends went to the cave known as the Gates of Hell to talk to Achilles, and he wasn't being punished, he was being honored in hell, but he was bored out of his mind and said he'd rather be a dirt farmer and alive than a hero in Hades. But he wasn't being punished, there was no eternal flame. That's a misunderstanding of the book of Revelation, in which the bad demons, the rebellious angels who just can't be redeemed, are tossed into the lake of fire and they're gone forever. Not burning forever, gone forever. However, there are punishments in the depths of hell, and Dante kind of had it right when he put Satan at the bottom in the depths of hell because his crime was treason against God. He also put Judas there. But in extra biblical literature outside the Bible, but from usually the time between between the testaments, or what we call Second Temple. You know, before Christ, but after Babylon destroyed the temple. Oh, thank you, Philip. There's been a bunch of queens, but I only count the ones who reigned for more than a few hours or days. um, where was I? Oh, yeah. Second Temple literature. There's kind of a hint of hell. But all Jesus said when the rich man was in the land of the dead, and his servant was, I think, Barnabas. Anyway, his servant was in the bosom of Abraham. The rich man wasn't being burned, he was thirsty. It was too hot, but he wasn't being burned by flames and all that. You guys, okay, Queens of England. I I will try clicking it and hope nothing bad happens. Nope, I can't do it, Philip. It's gonna take me off of YouTube. Queens of England. Oh, it's on YouTube. Pardon me. Anyway, um, magisterial teaching. I have no idea, Philip. And I'm not afraid I don't to say I don't know. I could guess about magisterial teaching. It might mean that there's magic involved, or it might mean that the teacher is an autocrat. He's the big, bad, wise magus, and you better just toe the line. Or it might mean there's something magical about it. J.W. Dunn? I've heard of John Dunn, but that's not how it's spelled. No clue, Google account. I needed more research. I am trying. Oh, let's see what Tim said about Secaucus, New Jersey. Oh, that's what hell is called? Uh, Technically not, Isla, and Sheol is where the dead souls go. the souls of the dead. The souls aren't dead. Gehenna is actually a literal place, a valley just outside Jerusalem that's always burning because that's where they burn the garbage. And the worst of criminals, instead of being given a nice burial, might have been tossed into Gehenna, their dead bodies after they were executed, tossed into the garbage to burn up with the garbage, which might be one reason why Jews don't um, cremate the dead. I see no problem with it, but I'm not. My perspective isn't even Christian. It's just that we're supposed to get a new body in the next life. Uh, okay, Google account. What is magisterial teaching? Uh, I don't know kosher from. Hmm. I know that most seafood is not kosher. Of course, fish are, but oysters and clams and such are not. I don't know about groundhog meat. Okay. Thank you, Philip. Gates of hell found in Turkey. Yes, there are caves all over Greece and Turkey, and even Palestine that are known as the gates of hell. But when Jesus talked about the gates of hell, he was standing at the base of Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is really, we see things in English translation, so we don't tend to notice it's Hermon or something like that. It's related to the word charem, which is the ban or curse put on the worst of cities in the Old Testament, that when um, Joshua was told, when you go into this city, kill everybody, that was the harem. Uh, yeah, Tim, when they cremate you, they grind up your bones and teeth and include them in the ashes. So, yeah, I imagine when you're very old, your bones, well, even now, even when you're not so old, your bones make up most of your weight. Bones and muscles. Very sorry, Tim. The way I see it, though, like some people, if they have to have a hand or a foot amputated, or if they lose some part in a bad accident, they have to be buried with all their parts so they can go to heaven with every single part of their body. Well, first, your body replaces every single cell in about 7 years. So once you're 7 years old, you have brand new body parts. They're not what you were born with. And when you're 14, again, you're brand new and not what you were at age 7. But even more than that, I'd like to say to people, do you really think that the God who made you couldn't find your foot if you lost it? Anyway, the Cave of Pan is at Mount Hermon. Might be the same. Interesting, Crichton. Pan, of course, is the Greek god of the wilderness. He's part goat, and then he has a human waist sitting Instead of the neck of a goat, human waist, torso, arms, and head, and he plays the pan flute, hence the name pan flute. Uh, and Pan is a bit of a mischief maker. He's sort of like the coyote in Southwest Native American lore. He's a trickster. I tend to believe that there really were animal human hybrids at one time. I don't believe that we just crawled out of the caves and, built cities and eventually became big, powerful technological us. I think we blew ourselves up at least once in the ancient past. And I think we tried genetic engineering once or twice before. No, Sheol is not Gehenna. Sheol is Hades, the land of dead souls. Gehenna is where you burn the garbage. And Gehenna is a literal place, and that's its name. With God, all things are possible. Pan does sound a lot like Loki, except Loki isn't half goat, so far as I know. Anyway, I will talk more about Greek myth, but I have to bone up on it because there's things I've forgotten. I do remember, though, that the pagan gods are not God. They're created beings. The first gods, or god and goddess, were heaven and earth, Oranos and Gaia, uh, our planet Uranus, or Uranus. Um, Scientists will try to tell you that the ancients didn't know about Uranus, the planet, but it actually can be seen with the naked eye, and I am not convinced that the ancient people did not have telescopes. Would you really leave your best tools lying around when you moved out of your house? Wouldn't you take them with you? At the very least, they had tubes, and even a plain tube like your paper towels come with can help you look at the stars. It blocks out ambient light and helps you to focus on one small part of the sky. They definitely could see Saturn and Jupiter and Mars and Venus. Perhaps not Mercury because it's so close to the sun, it's hard for us to get a look at it except when it rises either right before sunrise or right after sunset. Yeah, pottery from 4th century BC Greece depicts a man with a telescope. And of course, the mainstream archaeologists will try to tell you, oh no, that's a magic wand or something. It couldn't possibly be a telescope. Uh, yeah, The Clash of the Titans, which was a cool movie, um, was a real Greek myth. There were actually two wars with Titans and two generations of Titans. Now, heaven and earth gave birth to the first gods. Kronos, or Saturn, was the chief of the Titans, who were the offspring of heaven and earth. So, right there, you don't have God the Creator. the uncreated creator. What you have is Saturn is a created god. And he does kick heaven out, which kind of tells me that maybe at one time all these planets were a little closer to the Earth, and somehow Saturn pushed Uranus out. And he was so afraid that his children would do the same to him, Kronos or Saturn was, that he swallowed all his children. But their mother, Rhea, Rhea, hid Zeus/Jupiter, in a cave on the Earth and gave Kronos, Saturn, a rock to swallow. She wrapped it in swaddling clothes so he would think it was the newborn Zeus or Jupiter. Now, these children of Kronos were not Titans. Kronos and Rhea were Titans, and there were other first generation Titans. Anyway, Zeus um, cut Saturn's, or okay, Jupiter cut Saturn's belly open and pulled out his brothers and sisters. And what do you know? The planet Saturn has rings where its belly was sliced open. I think maybe these myths do tell us something about astronomy. Philip, it's really easy to make glass. Or you can just find quartz crystals and turn them into lenses. But if you can build a fire hot enough, you can melt sand and turn it into glass. Sometimes a lightning strike will melt sand or even rocks and turn it into glass. And of course, a nuclear explosion might do the same. In fact, in the Sahara Desert, there are so many of these pieces of green glass that some people think that there must have been an atomic bomb set off there. Could be. Now, what did 9Eland say that was interesting? I gotta scroll up. You guys are doing better than I am. This chat is wonderful. Anyway, I don't keep kosher. I wouldn't even try. The way I see it, the laws such as keeping kosher were for the health of the community in that time and that place. And of course, you didn't eat pork. You could die from eating pork, especially if it wasn't properly cooked. Let's see. Well, the Sophia Quester, the pagan gods, yeah. In the Mesopotamian myths, the kings were gods, or as you say, the gods were kings. Um, Babylonian and previous myths, but they reigned for thousands of years. I mean, each one reigned for at least hundreds of years, if not thousands. Although I wonder if that didn't mean that this particular tribe, one man and his descendants, like in England, the Tudors and the Windsors and the whatevers, the Yorks, I do believe groundhogs are rodents. Groundhog. Let's see. Not Groundhog Day. Okay. Keeps giving me Groundhog Day. I want to know if it's a rodent. I think it is. It's related to a beaver. Marmota monax, also known as a woodchuck, is a rodent of the family Sciuridae, belonging to the group of large ground squirrels known as marmots. Oh, they're woodchucks. Like that old rhyme. I haven't said it since I was a kid. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? I don't know. When I was a kid, you cooked pork to death because it could have trichinosis or food poisoning. No, Punxsutawney Phil did not see his shadow. He's predicting an early spring, but I plan to wait and see because it's kind of sunny here and windy. Um, the wind actually blew open one of my doors, so I had to put heavy boxes in front of the door to hold it shut. Anyway, groundhogs are rodents. Pork nowadays is grown in better conditions. They say it isn't dangerous. You won't get trichinosis, which is a parasite that really messes up all your muscles. Uh, just the same, I like to make sure pork is fully cooked. Unlike beef, which you can eat rare, usually, without a problem as long as it's fresh and not spoiled. Oswald, I'm not sure about the coronavirus. There's this thread that other people have been following. There's this microbiology lab in Canada where they try to develop vaccines for deadly diseases. And a Chinese national who worked there, who might have stolen the coronavirus from the Canadian lab and taken it to Wuhan, China, where they have a high security lab that deals with deadly diseases. And one way or another, the coronavirus might have escaped from the Chinese lab. I wonder if it isn't our attempt at um, biological warfare against China, although that doesn't seem likely. Oh, yeah, a Harvard scientist was arrested for ties to China. Yeah, interesting. And he wasn't Chinese either. But there's something going on that just doesn't sound as if somebody got it from eating bat soup. Unless the bat escaped from the lab. They were in Canada and China experimenting with bats specifically and how the bat could carry a deadly virus and not suffer any ill effects, not get the disease. Yeah, Loren, I'm all for cooking meat well done. I don't know about extra well done, but I don't eat a whole lot of meat to begin with. Um, I just don't like the idea that an animal has to die to feed me, but I do recognize that we are healthier when we have some meat in our diets, and I'm not willing to go to eating insects. For one thing, there's no way to avoid eating their guts, and their guts are full of crap, literally. I do prefer fish. At least fish aren't cute. Even chickens can be cute. Cows, definitely. Pigs apparently are genetically closer to humans than I can be comfortable about. That's how come we can use the valves from a pig heart to replace a valve in a human heart. And there's other ways in which pigs are used in biological science and medicine that I don't want to think about. Um, I don't think they boil the bat alive, Isla. They kill it first, but even so, there are some people who insist that the best way to cook lobster is to drop a live lobster into a pot of boiling water. That, I think, is sick. If you have to kill something, at least do it humanely. Now, lobsters and crabs and shrimp are actually basically insects that live in the ocean. Uh, but we're able to remove their guts. The director of nanotechnology biology, Super V Funcat says, the director of nanotechnology biology for Harvard was just arrested for selling intel to Wuhan Chinese. And I heard too that this Harvard scientist, whose name I've forgotten, professor that is, was given the title of professor of the university, a title held by only 25 of the professors at the various colleges at Harvard. So, for example, you could be a professor of the college that teaches English. I don't know the names of the Harvard colleges. You can be a professor of the college that teaches biology. But when you're a professor for the University of Harvard, you're a professor for all the colleges. And this guy had that title. Yeah, Michael. So many people in China and India, so many millions. Well, CO2 is not the problem. Uh, just a second. It's ridiculous to go to hydrogen cars that put out only water vapor instead of CO2 when they, run the car around town. Water vapor happens to be the worst greenhouse gas. Are they nuts? Isla Wren, her husband calls lobsters the roaches from the sea. Oh, yeah, there is this god awful thing. I hope they don't do it anymore. They would eat a monkey's brains while the monkey was still alive. Ugh. Yeah, a lobster is a sea bug. A sea spider? I think the crabs are kind of like spiders. I did get talked into trying sea urchin once. I had a very small bite of it. It does taste good, but I can't get past the texture. It's slimy. Yuck. Oh, I don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, water vapor is the worst greenhouse gas, and yet they're all over us about CO2 because when we cook our food or heat our homes with gas or burn gasoline in our cars, we put out CO2, carbon dioxide, which, by the way, is what trees and other plants eat or breathe in at least. Yeah, I tried sweetbreads once, Tim. Phil took me to this little restaurant in San Francisco and he ordered squab. And I asked him what that is, and he said pigeon, which I thought was gross and disgusting, so I ordered sweetbreads. They taste good if they're done right. Okay, Michael, who is nuts? John, let's see. Philip says John Tudor. I think you mean Chowder on the 562 AD comet to May 30, 2015 episode of WDTRG. I don't know what that is. Sorry, I don't get out much. Right, 9 Elan, most greenhouse gases are water vapor, probably from the melting um, uh, glaciers. Yeah, water vapor doesn't make you cough, but neither does CO2. It's those god awful smoke and chemicals that make you cough. Oh, the greenhouse gases people, yeah, they're nuts. Remember to hit live chat where it says top chat or you'll miss half the conversation. Oh, mine just says live chat. Oh, yeah, top chat is just what YouTube considers the best of chat. Where did the road go? What road? I don't know, Philip. I've been listening again to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Elton John. Oh, yeah, water is bad for us, Circle K. Right. Oh, that's the show's name. I got it. Where did the road go? See, I don't have TV. I have to find things online or just not. Oh, okay. Weird shadow, but it's just the tree limb moving in the wind. Um, I can't go the whole 2 hours today. I have someone coming by and she needs help with computer stuff, but I think I can go till 1:30. Yeah. Well, I do know that tap water is bad for you, especially if you have uh, fluoride added to it, which in most cases, fluoride is a waste product of industry, such as refining aluminum. Now, there is natural fluoride in groundwater. That isn't a problem, and it's in trace amounts. But when they take this industrial waste and add it to your water so that the industries don't have to dispose of it or store it properly. Tap water tastes like a swimming pool. That's just nasty. Tim, I've self published 3 books about Phil, and I'm working on a fourth. My current project is The X in Exegesis. I'd love to swing a book deal, but the problem is that Phil's daughters are against my having anything to do with their father, and nothing I can do about it. They have more clout than I do. Oh, Walter Bosley was on Where Did the Road Go podcast. Cool. Awesome. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, I have 2 memoirs, Philip K. Dick, Remembering Firebright, and Conversations with Philip K. Dick. And I have a book-length review of Blade Runner called Blade Runner creator Philip K. Dick. It covers the novel and both films. And the X in Exegesis will be about his exegesis. Plumbing water, huh? In German, tap water translates to plumbing water. I'm reading exegesis in order to write about it. Of course, I remember a great deal of what went into it. And anyway, this book will have footnotes, only I can't get the word processing program to make footnotes look decent, so I'm just putting the references within the text so that they're right there. When I quote something, the reference is right after the quote. Ooh, ooh, Tim, you lucky duck. Greg Press books. I wish I had the Greg Press books. I think I might have one. See, I can't afford to buy books, and nobody sends me free copies. Divine Invasion. I have a copy of that. I think I've read it. Pretty sure I have. I have the hardcover. Not sure what condition it's in. Whole Foods has 32 varieties of bottled water. You know what's really a crime is Arrowhead water, which that evil company bought. Arrowhead spring water used to be the best water. They'd boil it, filter it, and bottle it. Came right out of these here mountains. Tasted awesome. What's that company's name? It's on the tip of my brain. Nestle. Nestle bought Arrowhead water. Now they truck it to Los Angeles, filter everything out of it, including the minerals that made it so healthful and made it taste so good. They put it in bottles and sell it back to us at about $1 a pint. If you buy the gallon bottle, it might be a little more like 50 cents a pint. Uh, Nestle is evil. Although their chocolate is pretty good, I quit buying it. I hate them. Anyway, was I already writing? Yeah, I was a published author when I met Phil. I was writing primarily nonfiction and poetry. Um, I was 15 years old when I sold my first article to a magazine called Alive, and it was about photography. uh, the magazine was for teenagers, and they wanted to do a whole issue that was written by teenagers. So I jumped on the opportunity. Humph, humph. Used books, huh? I find it so hard to let go of any book, but oh, there's a woodchuck poem by Robert Frost, huh? Okay. Um, so apparently, groundhogs are woodchucks and they're marmots. Marmot. Marmot. And somehow related to beavers, too, although not that closely. They're closer to ground squirrels. Anyway, I'm sick of these uh, animal activists who think it's so cruel to pull poor Phil out of his lair once a year. That groundhog is living the good life, and people can visit him year round, and he loves the attention. And Nestle does a lot of dirty deeds around the world. They're also among those who sold the poor people of India and nearby countries on giving their infants uh, formula instead of breastfeeding, among people who powdered formula for people who did not have a source of clean water. And they just convinced them that it was much more healthy for the baby to have formula. And of course, there were many, many infant deaths because they didn't have a good source of clean water. That was a big scandal in the 70s when I was raising my little infant. I had to start him on formula simply because he was the hungriest thing you ever saw. I couldn't provide enough milk. So I began with supplemental bottles, and then when I had to have oral surgery and have a tooth removed, I couldn't breastfeed. You know, they said for 3 days till all the um, medications were out of my system. So I gave up. Activists against fur and leather have no problem with plastics and carcinogenics used to make their faux fur and faux leather, all of which never biodegrade. Right, super the fun cat. On top of that, we can't have plastic straws, and they're trying to get rid of plastic grocery bags. On the whole, I prefer paper bags anyway, but you have to buy a paper bag. You have to buy a plastic bag now. It used to be the paper bags were like 10 cents and the plastic ones were free. You know where most of the garbage in the ocean really comes from? People will try to tell you it's China. And yeah, a lot of garbage in the ocean does come from China, but the one biggest source is cruise ships. Yeah, we can get paper bags now, and they're totally biodegradable. And frankly, the plastic bags we used to get, the real thin ones that were not reusable, actually had many, many uses. Um, shove them into the walls for insulation for free. Um, wrap the fruit on your tree to keep bugs and birds away from your pears and peaches and stuff. Thank you, Philip. I think I will try that trading used books. Plastic lawn ornaments and playground equipment. Uh, Paperback swap. Super V Fun Cat. Yeah. Well, 10 cents used to buy a candy bar that was twice as big as the candy bar that costs $1 now. Junior Mints and Sugar Babies were 5 cents. Hershey bars were 10 cents when I was a kid. And at a coffee shop, a cup of coffee was 10 cents, and you got unlimited refills. A cup of tea was also 10 cents, but you didn't get any refills. Well, actually, there's a machine going around the ocean to collect all the plastic and get rid of it. It broke the first time they used it, but they fixed it up and improved it, and it's working now. Uh, a Romulan disruptor. Hmm. Well, I'd like to know why anybody thought those non reusable plastic grocery bags were not biodegradable when mine fell apart within a month or two when they were left out in the sun. I've had them accidentally get buried in the garden, and I don't know if the worms ate them or they just degraded on their own, but they eventually disappeared within less than a year, just one growing season. Oh, flamingos and gnomes? I kind of like the garden ornaments. I don't think I'd have a gnome in my yard. I might want a flamingo, except my friends would laugh at me, and I don't have that many friends. Most of my friends are on YouTube, but I'd have to show them a picture, YouTube or Facebook. And I'm just not giving up Facebook because, frankly, it's where I reach the most people. I've never gotten the hang of Twitter. I'm on it, but Facebook, over the years learned how to navigate the darn thing. It says I joined in '07, so what's that, 12, 13 years? Flamingo gnome hybrid. That'd be interesting. How about a gnome riding on the back of a flamingo? Would I want to hear from Valis? No, thank you. Uh, I have this innate suspicion of bodiless voices talking inside my head. And yes, I've had that happen to me, but I'm not talking about it today. Suffice it to say that it is not a trustworthy experience. The source could be good and might not be good. Oh, yeah, brother, can you spare a dime? Yeah, that's from the Great Depression. A dime used to buy dinner at a diner or a greasy spoon. Oh well, it's still Groundhog Day. And I hope Punxsutawney Phil was right. But I suspect that he was wrong. The Farmer's Almanac says we're in for more winter, and they don't need a groundhog to tell them. Of course, even the Farmer's Almanac has been known to be wrong, but they do have a better track record than the Groundhog. Oh, and the other Groundhog, I forget his name or what city he's in, but he predicted that the 49ers will win the Super Bowl. Yeah, Facebook can be kind of scary, especially when I look up some product or service on a completely different site and then Facebook shows me an ad for that. But I figure that if I were to tell them not to track me, they'd be even more suspicious of me and they'd track me even more and I just wouldn't know it. It's as I said about Phil being harassed in 1971. He didn't have to be guilty of anything. He didn't have to be important. He simply had to come to the attention of the authorities and they would never leave him alone. And that is what happened. Well, Phil, even though he wrote science fiction, what he was writing in his mind was realism. He wrote about things that really happened to him. He really saw this world as a matrix, something false, something constructed by a machine like entity, or maybe a computer. He saw familiar objects change, like the light switch that wasn't there. That happened to me once. I walked in my front door and reached over for the light switch. You know, you just reach over and flip it up, and there was no light switch. There wasn't one. I had to remember, and yet it didn't feel like remembering. But there was actually a chain hanging down from the ceiling lamp, and I had to pull the chain. I was sure that I used to have a light switch in my living room. Yeah, Ahriman might have built it. That's very Zoroastrian. Glitches in the matrix or the adjustment team, things seem to change. I'll tell you one weird experience I had. It was, of course, it was the year 2001 in September on the 10th. I generally left the TV on the television set for a nightlight with the sound turned off when I went to bed. And I would turn on the radio and listen to Art Bell while I fell asleep. Well, that night, I just decided I didn't want any bad news. I didn't want to hear anything from the outside world, so I turned off the television and turned off the radio and went to bed. But I forgot to unplug the telephone. Sure enough, the next morning the phone rings. I answer it, it's my son. Airplanes just flew into the Twin Towers. It was 9/11. I said, you gotta be kidding. This has to be a movie. It can't be real. And he says, no, it's real. So I turn on the television, see the news, it's real. Well, why was it that for the first time in years, I went to bed with no television, no radio, didn't want to hear any bad news, and it happened to be the night before the airplanes flew into the Twin Towers? I must have known something unconsciously. Facebook isn't driven by user demand, it's driven by advertising dollars. Well, oh, why'd they bother Phil? They thought that he had helped Timothy Leary escape from prison. He did not help Leary escape, but they were desperate to find the man President Nixon called the most dangerous man in America, Dr. Timothy Leary, an advocate for LSD. Well, Leary was sent to prison on a drug charge and he escaped and he had help. Leary ended up touring Europe as a minor celebrity, and Philip K. Dick had his house broken into 3 times, and on the third occasion, his house was torn apart, windows were smashed, uh, doorknobs were knocked off of the doors, his food was thrown all over the kitchen floor, his fireproof file cabinet was blown up with explosives. Oh, poor Philip. What a birthday. September 11. Well, anyway, what they took were bank statements, tax forms, and his manuscripts of the novels he was working on. And basically, the sheriff told him to leave town and never come back. So when Phil went to Vancouver, British Columbia, to be guest of honor at a science fiction convention, he decided never to come back. Well, that changed when he supposedly tried to kill himself. I think he was being suicided. And I lay out the reasons in my forthcoming book, um, The X in Exegesis. I think I heard a car door, but it isn't at my house, so we're good for a few more minutes. I think that he was kidnapped, drugged, hypnotized, and told to kill himself. He ended up coming down to Fullerton, California, because Dr. Willis McNally at Cal State Fullerton, which at that time was a college and later became a university, Dr. McNally sort of sponsored Phil, found him a place to live, and paid him to lecture to his classes, his college courses. Santa Cruz legalized psychedelic plants and fungi. I think you mean LSD. LCD is liquid crystal display, Oswald. Well, frankly, well, Nixon's big thing was the war on drugs. Terrible thing. The war on drugs, as we see in A Scanner Darkly, was worse than the drugs themselves. Well, it might sound like the KGB, but I think it was the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. Phil suspected the CIA. Oh, the Stasi, yeah, they're all the same thing. But the Dr. Leary connection would say it had to do with drugs. They never believe you're innocent. You've come to their attention. Even if you were a victim or a witness in a previous crime, they think you must be a criminal, or they wouldn't have seen your face before. Uh, I had a similar experience on a much smaller scale when I witnessed a violent crime at the neighbor's house. Fortunately, it was a local matter, so once I left Orange County, California, I had no problems with the law other than my teenage son getting traffic tickets. Because you see, when you're a juvenile and you get a traffic ticket, you're guilty until proven guilty. I even hired him a lawyer once, and the best he could do was get him traffic school. And the Department of Motor Vehicles still suspended his license. No, uh, Phil thought at one point it might have been Scientology because he made L. Ron Hubbard a character in the novel. People were worshiping the great L. Ron, Elron, L. Ron Hubbard. But no, they actually liked that, apparently. They weren't mad at him at all. But yeah, he thought it might have been Minutemen or KKK or Black Panthers. Or Phil never got to what I got to because he didn't put the threads together, and I only recently saw the connection. And it was that Phil always bragged that John Lennon said that the Beatles song Paperback Writer was about him, about Philip K. Dick. And I suddenly realized that phone call had to be from the Bed In Montreal, where John Lennon and Yoko Ono were recording Give Peace a Chance in protest of the Vietnam War because a bunch of people were there while they recorded the song. One was Dr. Timothy Leary. Another was a young journalist named Paul Williams, who knew Phil, had Phil's phone number, and said, "Hey, let's give Philip K. Dick a call." Paul had given copies of the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch to both John Lennon and Dr. Leary, and that's the novel all about LSD, the two drugs, candy and choosy, that allow people to hallucinate. Oh, Lennon was keen on Ubik. That's good to know, Tim. Thank you. Um, anyway, that had to be the connection. The authorities who were looking for Dr. Leary, who had escaped from prison and where he was sent on drug charges, they certainly had access to John Lennon's phone records from that hotel room. It was only a few months later. Well, I think a little over a year. From June 69 to October of 1970. Yeah. They were probably spying on John Lennon anyway and already had the records of calls going in and out of John Lennon's hotel room. And here's a call to this obscure writer in Northern California, not too far from the prison that Leary escaped from. and on a day when Leary was in the hotel room with John Lennon. So even if they didn't have a recording or transcript of the phone call, they knew that there was a connection. And this Philip K. Dick, whoever he was, might have been involved in helping Dr. Leary escape. Of course he wasn't. He was totally innocent and it never even occurred to him that that was the connection. Kaczynski, is that Jay? No, I'm thinking Strizzy. I'm not sure who Kaczynski is, Michael. Separatists, conflation of violence with philosophy. Nixon had it in for Lenin and anti-war hippies, and yet Nixon, as he promised when he was running for president, he got us out of Vietnam. It was the sloppiest, most god-awful evacuation. They classified dogs as equipment so they wouldn't have to bring them back. In a country where they eat dogs, all these highly trained military canines, dogs, that the soldiers loved. Many of them were simply euthanized, put to sleep, killed, rather than leave them to a fate that was probably worse. Yeah, Nixon knew when to walk away. He was Watergated, and of course, Nixon was not Mr. Clean, but he always claimed that history would vindicate him, and it's beginning to look as if it might. But he was so wrong about the war on drugs. We actually made some progress under Nancy Reagan's Just Say No campaign. It really is a decision to start or not to start on drugs. And for me, cigarettes. They're legal, and until recently, they were cheap. But the um, anti smoking Nazis have made sure that taxes increase the price 5 times what it used to be. What used to be $2 is now 10 for cigarettes. Straczynski, Babylon 5. I never really got into Babylon 5. Sorry. Is that J. Michael Straczynski? If so, he's the guy I used to listen to on NPR radio. He worked on a number of things, like Murder, She Wrote. Circle K, I think we're talking about the same guy. Well, I don't chain smoke, Lunar. I can't afford to. I keep handling the cigarette without actually lighting it. Who had a poetic way of cursing? Oh, Nixon. Yeah. Yeah, well, Nixon was definitely a bigot. Yeah, I can't stand NPR anymore. I didn't listen for politics, I listened for things like philosophy. Ted Kaczynski, wasn't he the Unabomber? Michael, no, J. Michael Straczynski is a writer, a good one. International Authors is in the chat room. Wow, yeah, but I'm having to leave soon in order to help a friend with scanning and emailing and stuff. Yeah, Yeah, Circle K. I do know J. Michael Straczynski. I just don't know Babylon 5. I hear a car door. Well, still not at my house, just close enough to hear. Yeah, MK Ultra, no doubt. Well, Carl Rogers. Hmm, raised as a Calvinist. Well, I like Rogers better than well, I have a block against the a-hole's name. The guy who raised his daughter in a cage, a glass walled crib. Um, the behavior modification guy. I hate the guy. That's why I don't remember his name. Bad aliens use tech that require living beings. Let's see. Behavior modification. Uh, ah, this isn't giving me any names. At least not. Um, no. God, why can't I at least come up with that guy's name? Da, 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 da. Not. Oh, well, maybe it must have been Skinner. Thank you, Tim. B.F. Skinner. That's an appropriate name. Yeah. His mother, by the way, hated him because she was deprived of any meaningful emotional connection while she was growing up. All he ever did was modify her behavior. Ah, Jack Parsons. Yeah, well, there's a lot of lot to say about Jack Parsons, but I'm not the expert. I do know that L. Ron Hubbard stole his wife and his boat. I was experimented on as a child, and well, a number of students at my elementary school were all grade levels. I don't think they had any kindergarteners, but maybe. But my older brother and I were both part of this experiment about self esteem. And I remember that, but I also remember being taught to do psychic stuff, kind of like remote viewing before we had that term remote viewing. This would be around 1960 to 61. And apparently it was a longitudinal study, so that means that even though I dropped out, they kept watching me. Same with Phil. His mother signed him up for one of those longitudinal studies of gifted children. And when Phil was 18, he dropped out of the study. But according to the published literature, they were still following his career. They just didn't give him an annual interview asking him questions and stuff. Oh yeah, L. Ron Hubbard um, began with his theory of Dianetics, a sort of philosophical psychology, and then he discovered the advantages of having a church, such as no taxes. Oh, Oswald, they've replaced self esteem with selfie esteem. The steam from constant barrage of people taking pictures of themselves. Yeah, and walking off a cliff to get a selfie, and getting hit by a car to get a selfie, dying in various ways to get a selfie. Whitley Strieber, yeah, Whitley Strieber was one of those. He's probably about my age. Yeah, in the early 60s, they experimented on a lot of people. And in my case, it was uh, actually a published study, okay? Published several times. And my brother and I tracked down the issue of Scientific American that had an article about this study. But behind the public study was something secret. Our parents never knew about this study. They were not asked to sign any releases or whatever to allow them to study their children. They never even knew about it. And you'd have to understand my family's dysfunction to figure out why I never told mom, never asked her about the study, about these people. They gave me the crazy test, the MMPI, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, when I was 6 or 7 years old. They had me draw a picture of myself so they could determine from the picture my level of self esteem, like low, high, or in between. That was the original selfie in the 1960s. Take some crayons and draw a picture of yourself. You know what's worse than selfies? A Facebook post that says, "You've got to share this or you're a turd." If you really believe in God, if you really love your whatever, if you want to save the whatever, you have to copy, paste, and share this. Don't just hit the share button, copy and paste, and comment below. Those things never end, and they are don't produce anything. The SAT Z, that must, oh, the SAT. Yeah, the thing about the SAT is you had to be there by 8 and start taking the test at 8:30 in the morning. And like most teenagers, I was not a morning person. I still did okay. At the time, 1350 was an unusually high score, 1350. A perfect score would have been 1400, not 16 like it is today. But it wasn't so much that I was really smart or well educated as that I knew how to take a test. I did much higher in English skills than math, but I did well in both. Okay, well, I've been wanting to read the actual Darwin's actual writing on the origin of species. It seems that he had questions, serious questions about his own theory. Okay, it is almost time to scoot because my friend with the legal documents for scanning and emailing should be here any minute. SAT correlates with IQ because it's the same test, basically. All the IQ test measures is your vocabulary and your ability to do simple math. Like, I don't know, you have a tablespoon and a measuring cup, and you have to figure out how to get so much water measured, that kind of thing. The one they should have is, let's see, you have a teaspoon, a measuring cup, and a bucket. How do you empty the bathtub? Because that's the real crazy test. A sane person would pull the plug. Sympathy and compassion. Darwin, huh? Yeah, well, science was a different thing in the 1800s. It and technology was more beautiful. That's why I like steampunk. When I watch, and I do this every once in a while, I watch the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I'm just amazed at the beauty of these mechanical things. Even the gun is a thing of beauty, it isn't just utilitarian. Trains used to be gorgeous inside and out, and now they're just cool. What are they, postmodern or neo-modern or post-postmodern? They're utilitarian. The seats are uncomfortable, the trains are bumpy, they look ugly and stupid, and they don't work all that well. Oh, Circle K just found a pencil. Uh, Thanks for being here, Lunar. Well, I want anything, Darwin wrote Philip Blair, but I've got to go soon. I know I do. Let's check again. Okay. Oh, she said she would Facebook message me. This phone has more computing power than the what we used to send men to the moon. Yes, she's on her way and she lives 5 minutes away. Uh, so I really got to scoot. MMPI is a think of beauty in a way. I took the MMPI as an adult for a student who was doing his thesis on in psychology, and he when he came to talk to me about the results, he was like, "But you aren't schizophrenic." And I said, "No, but I do see weird things that other people don't see." And part of it is my weird eyesight. My right eye is basically blind, but of course I'm not disabled because it isn't totally blind. I have peripheral vision. Okay, thank you guys. I really gotta go. Max View remote viewing class. I've tried remote viewing. The thing is, every picture they give you is full of blue sky, and that's all I see is blue sky. Except one turned out to be the Golden Gate Bridge, and I had drawn a sort of a bridge. But I couldn't figure out why the bridge was blue until I saw the photo and it was almost all blue sky. Yeah, the body's maybe 80, between 80 and 90% water. But she'll be here any minute. In fact, I think she. Yeah, it's fun, but I see something that's in the picture, but it's never the target that they want. All right, I had a cigarette out that I was going to light, and I had the lighter out, and I put them down somewhere. Here we go. I really gotta go, guys. Thank you all. You're going to the moon with your phone? Oh, yeah, all you gotta do is search for moon and it'll take you there. Um, Oh, it's 57 degrees. No wonder I turned off the heater. It's almost 60 degrees. Okay, gotta go. Thanks all. Let's see. Um, like that. Okay.